What if the reason you feel out of place is because you're not meant to belong here? What if your entire life has been a divine cover story, hiding the real reason you came? Chosen one, your real mission is still classified. Not because you're unworthy of it, but because your readiness isn't something that can be given. It must rise from within. You're not just a seeker. You're a silent architect in a design so vast, so precise, that if revealed too soon, it could collapse under the weight of your own power. This concealment is not a punishment, it's protection. Every moment of delay, every setback, every foggy night you spent questioning your value was divine encryption, shielding you. Because what's hidden is sacred, and your energy must align with the right frequency to receive the truth. You've already started the training, even if you didn't realize it. The silence you mistook for absence was actually activation. Yes, your every thought, your every yearning, your wildest visions have been feeding the energetic blueprint of a mission that was never lost, only waiting. So keep dreaming, keep wishing, keep setting fire to the universe with the light in your heart. Because that, chosen one, that is not fantasy. It is the preliminary code required to unlock your classified calling, if your heart is stirring right. Now, you're not alone. Let the algorithm reflect your awakening. Type your warmest wish in the comments along with the number 77. That number isn't random. It's a harmonic frequency, a signal to others on this hidden path. And if this message already feels like truth buried deep inside you, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started. You may ask, if I'm meant for something great, why hide it from me? Because your greatness isn't a single act. It's a series of awakenings. Revelations too powerful to be delivered all at once. Imagine pouring lightning into a vessel, not yet forged. It would shatter. So your journey was designed with friction, with resistance, with confusion, not to break you, but to shape you. Each moment of despair, each night you almost gave up, has been forging your soul into a container worthy of the truth. This isn't punishment. This is preparation. The mission is not just hidden from you. It's hidden from your enemies, from forces that mimic light but carry decay. If they knew your path, they'd try to derail it. That's why you've been silenced. Why you felt alone. Why nothing ever made full sense. Your silence was a security protocol. And every doubt you've had? An encryption key tightening the code so nothing unworthy can trace your frequency. You weren't meant to fit in. That ache in your chest when you tried to belong? That's divine discomfort. A glitch in the matrix designed to remind you, are not from here. You've been embedded in this realm like a star cloaked in fog, camouflaged until the celestial hour strikes. Others walk with purpose, but you walk with mystery. That's by design. Your light is too ancient for human templates. Your mission wasn't mapped with ink. It was etched in fire dot, and still, the questions burn. When will I know? When does the veil lift? The answer arrives in layers. You begin to know when you stop needing to know. The veil doesn't lift by force. It rises with frequency. As you align with trust, the secrets start to whisper. Because the real mission isn't something you do. It's something you become. You don't perform it. You remember it. And oh, chosen one, you've already begun. Those tears you cried in secret. The nights you begged for clarity. The days you questioned your own worth. Those were initiations, not failures. They were signal tests. The universe was checking. Can you still hold the light when everything around you goes dark? And you did. Not because you knew what to do, but because you refused to stop walking. That was enough. That was everything. You've been entrusted with sacred chaos, the kind that births galaxies, the kind that fractures illusions. You've felt broken, not because you're weak, but because your soul was being restructured to carry what this world has never seen. And what looked like delay was actually calibration. You are being prepared. Every cell in your body realigned to withstand the truth when it finally arrives. You're not waiting. You're becoming. Have you ever wondered if God placed a message inside you long before you ever knew how to hear it? Not to impress the world, but to awaken the truth buried beneath your silence? If something in your soul feels stirred by what you've just heard, don't scroll past it. This isn't entertainment, it's alignment. Type 77 in the comments to mark your moment of remembrance. Let others walking this hidden path recognize you by your frequency. And if this message felt like it was written in your bones, hit that subscribe button and like this video. You're not just watching, you're awakening. Welcome home. You've always known. Not with logic, not with evidence, but with a quiet, unshakable sense that something in you doesn't match what's been offered by the world. You looked around and saw people chasing definitions, fighting for labels, climbing ladders you were never drawn to. And deep down, you wondered if something was wrong with you, but it wasn't wrongness. It was remembrance. You weren't here to mimic what already exists. You were seated to awaken what has been forgotten. And for that kind of soul silence is required. Delay is sacred. The universe couldn't just hand you your mission. It had to shape you into someone who could carry it without distortion. You've asked why the signs were vague, why the path was foggy, why every time you thought you'd arrived, the ground shifted. It's because you were never being led to a destination. You were being attuned to a frequency, and that frequency cannot be forced. It must be remembered. That's why your real mission was encrypted, not because you were unworthy of the truth, but because the version of you that could understand the truth had to be forged first, not in glory, but in mystery, not in applause, but in alignment. Your life hasn't been random. It's been coded with intention. Every heartbreak was a refining fire. Every loss was a holy vacuum. Every unanswered prayer was a redirection pulling you closer to your soul's coordinates. Haven't missed it. You've been moving through it. Every tear you shed in confusion, every sleepless night, every quiet moment you questioned your worth, it was all activation. You were not wandering. You were waking. And now, the signals are getting stronger. The vibrations sharper. The veil thinner. You are no longer just searching. You are remembering. Not through instruction, but through resonance. And that chosen one is the beginning of your return. Part 2. The mission is still classified, not just to protect you from external enemies, but to guard you from the silent saboteurs within. The doubts, the false beliefs, the inherited traumas passed down like broken code. If the mission had arrived too soon, they would have corrupted it from the inside out. That's why you were led into healing, into darkness, into loneliness. Every breakdown was a breakthrough disguised. Every piece of pain you endured wasn't punishment. It was purification. Each layer that fell away, each heartbreak that split you open, was another firewall removed, another corrupted program deleted. And still you wonder, am I behind? You're not behind schedule. You are right on divine time. When the appointed moment comes, nothing will be able to stop the unfolding. The mission will not be something you chase. It will chase you. It will find you in the quiet of your courage, in the thunder of your faith. And when it arrives, it will not feel new. It will feel like home. Even now, you may already be living fragments of it, in the way you speak, in the depth of your compassion, in the quiet choices no one sees. You've been aligning all along, even in your uncertainty. Don't wait for fireworks. Watch for alignment. The signs are subtle for a reason, because what is true doesn't scream. It whispers. And if the world had seen your real light too soon, It would have tried to devour you or worship you. Either way, it would have distorted what was meant to remain sacred. That's why you've been hidden in plain sight, not forgotten, not abandoned, coded, and your code is unlocking one spark, one decision, one awakening at a time. The classification of your mission is not rejection. It is refinement. One of the greatest misconceptions is believing purpose must be fully known before it can be lived. But your soul, older than language, wiser than systems, doesn't operate on linear instructions. You were never meant to hold a step-by-step manual. You were meant to feel your way forward, like a blind prophet trusting the vibration of your steps, because the real mission isn't in your head. It lives in your memory, your soul's memory, buried beneath conditioning and survival instincts. You've been trained to doubt what you can't explain, but this calling cannot be explained in the language of the current world. That's why no job title has ever fit. No label ever felt like home. Your mission is not a profession. It is a pulse, a revolution coded into your very being. You don't find it by asking others. You awaken to it when all noise has faded and only your essence remains. It's not hiding because you're lost. It's hidden because the static of the world would have scrambled the signal. The mission must be received in stillness, not through striving. The noise you've been surrounded by, it's not random. It was designed. Confusion is manufactured. The system was never meant for you to awaken, but even in the middle of the storm, you began to feel it. That ache in your spirit, that whisper, saying there's more, that unshakable feeling that you're not what the world told you. Those weren't coincidences. They were early activations. There's a point in your path where no external voice can confirm your identity. That's the wilderness phase. You wander, you ask, you listen, and the universe seems silent. But the silence isn't a void. It's calibration. You're being tuned to a frequency above explanation. That's why people around you don't get it. That's why advice falls flat. That's why you've grown numb to their templates and tired of their timelines. You're being trained to hear from within. Even your struggles, yes, the breakups, the betrayals, the jobs that didn't fit were encrypted messages, divine detours, rejections that protected your signal from environments that would have dulled your frequency. You didn't fail. You were redirected. You weren't passed over. You were protected. Every no was actually a disguised yes. A yes to your real path. A yes to the you that couldn't be diluted, repackaged, or tamed. And now, as the collective energy of the earth begins to tremble, the ones who are encoded for this time are feeling the pull, the nudges, the signs, the dreams that feel more like memories, the awakenings that feel more like recognition. These aren't accidents. They are coordinates. They are calls from your true timeline beckoning you home. And even if it feels like everything is falling apart, the truth is, everything false is falling away. The foundations that never truly supported you are being dismantled, not to punish you, but to make room for what is real. The greatest illusion is that you're late. But time is not linear when you're on a soul mission. You're not behind. You are arriving in layers, in fragments, in divine rhythm. Each pain, each pivot, each insight was part of the alignment. You are not waiting for the mission. You are the mission. It is not outside of you. It is unfolding from within. Part 3, you are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are exactly where the mission needs you to be: alert, awakening, aligned. What you once saw as missteps were actually sacred pivots. The universe has been more intentional than you ever realized. Even now, your mission is not paused. It is whispering, not in language, but in symbols, dreams, and sudden flashes of knowing that have no source except your soul. These glimpses are not random. They are fragments of your code reactivating. The more you step into authenticity, the more the fog begins to lift. The more you say yes to your own truth, the more the hidden layers begin to unfold. But don't expect a full map. This mission is not meant to be revealed in one flash. It will come in waves, scrolls, pieces of a design that only makes sense when you look back, not forward. You are not here to perform a task. You are here to radiate a presence. This mission is not something you do. It is something you become. Its impact is not a result of your effort. It is the natural consequence of your embodiment. This is the truth that old systems fear, that power doesn't come from permission, that light doesn't require validation. Your mission remains classified because you are still shedding the illusions that told you it had to be earned. You were taught to look outside, but what you seek lives beneath your conditioning, beneath your survival strategies, beneath the name the world gave you. And every time you trust that inner pulse, every time you say no to imitation and yes to your knowing, you step closer to the original design written into your soul before time began. You are not here to follow trends. You are here to restore truths. You are not sent to be accepted. You were sent to activate. The world doesn't need more echoes. It needs interruptions. And that's exactly what you are. That's why you've been resisted. That's why you've been delayed. Because you are a divine disruption. The light you carry doesn't just illuminate, it recalibrates. It breaks patterns. It bends timelines. It shakes the false foundations. And when the time comes, and it will, you won't need a sign. You'll feel the signal, Dot. It may not come as thunder. It may come as stillness, a quiet fire in your bones, a knowing that nothing outside of you matters more than what's rising from within. You won't need to convince anyone. You won't need to defend it. You won't even need to try, because by then, you'll have become the frequency. All the confusion will rearrange itself. Every delay will be seen as alignment. The pieces that once felt scattered will snap into place. And you'll finally see that nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. The divine was coding you through experience. This was never a race. It was a revelation. The mission will not arrive in one moment. It will move through you, like electricity through a wire activated not by effort, but by availability. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to beg for clarity. You just need to make space. The mission is classified not to frustrate you, but to protect the signal until the noise subsides. And in time, it will find you not as an idea, but as a current that moves your breath, your choices, your presence. The veil will lift not as a flash, but as a soft unfolding. You will walk not with answers, but with alignment. And that will be enough. That will be everything. Yes, there will be those who try to define you by what you haven't yet done, who attempt to measure your value by worldly milestones. But your mission was never built for applause. It was not meant to be broadcast. It was meant to be protected. Your silence has never been weakness. It has been your shield. Your invisibility has never been a punishment. It was your sacred cocoon. Every door that wouldn't open, every season of waiting, every path that looped in circles, it wasn't failure. It was divine filtration. You are not meant to be everywhere. Not everyone is meant to find you. Not every room deserves your presence. That's why you are hidden. Not from the world, but for the right moment. And when that moment comes, everything will shift without warning. Not because you forced it, but because divine timing doesn't require buildup. It only requires readiness. The mission will not demand that you prove yourself. It will ask only that you trust yourself. You will feel it like gravity. And when it lands, you will not hesitate. You will know it's time, not because you studied it, but because you remember it, like a melody from another life, like a room you built in another world. It will feel like home. You've likely asked, why has it taken so long? Why all the delays, the closed doors, the long silences? And perhaps deep down, a part of you feared that you missed it, that the signs passed and you didn't act in time. But what if every delay was precision? What if every detour was divine engineering? What if every pause was on purpose? You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. Your life has not been a series of missteps. It's been a map, a sequence of sacred placements. You weren't off course. You were being moved with surgical accuracy, not for speed, but for impact. The world tells you to hurry. But eternity never rushes. You were never made for temporary impact. You were designed for legacy, and legacy takes time. Deep, sacred, intentional time. You are not sent to arrive early and impress the unready. You were sent to arrive right on time, with frequency so aligned, it bends the air around you. You don't have to demand space. Space begins to recognize you. And suddenly, the very world that once overlooked you begins to orbit around the gravity of your presence. That's what alignment does. And that's why your mission remained hidden. Because had it been revealed too soon, it would have been misunderstood, manipulated, even destroyed. The world would have rushed you, repackaged you, tried to own what was meant to be sacred. But the divine had other plans. That's why you were delayed, not denied. That's why certain people couldn't stay. That's why certain platforms never supported your voice. Not because you lacked value, but because you were never meant to be known too soon. Because when your mission finally arrives in full, it won't just uplift you. It will disrupt everything around you. You are not here to build what's already crumbling. You are here to plant seeds for what's coming next. Not to preserve the old, but to embody the original. And so you were kept away, not to be punished, but to be preserved, not to be silenced, but to be sacredly stored. Until now, because something is stirring. The signal is strengthening, the seals are loosening, and the guardians of your deeper knowing are preparing to hand you the key. But it won't come from a mentor, or a sermon, or a podcast. It will come from your yes, not the loud yes you shout to prove your worth, but the silent yes that trembles in your chest and finally says, I am ready. When you speak that yes, not just with your words, but with your choices, the mission begins. You won't have to force doors to open. The locks will dissolve. The paths will clear. The people will come not to fix you, but to walk beside the version of you that can no longer be denied, because you won't be a seeker anymore. You'll be a signal. And from that moment on, everything will shift. Not all at once, but deliberately, with pace, with power. The mission will no longer be a mystery. It will become momentum. And every heartbeat, every breath, every decision will carry the code of the original blueprint you agreed to before time began. This is why you never fit. Why nothing ever felt quite right. Why the jobs, the roles, the labels never held. Because you weren't here to wear a name. You were here to carry a frequency, and that frequency couldn't be activated until the false layers dissolved, until the identity you were taught to uphold finally collapsed under its own weight, until you stopped trying to become and finally allowed yourself to remember, this is not a fairy tale. This is not wishful thinking. This is sacred architecture in motion. You are not broken. You are coded. And that code is unlocking. Not from striving, but from surrender. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You are not here to be impressive. You are here to be true. And when truth walks into a room, it doesn't need applause. It needs silence. And that's what you're stepping into, the quiet authority of one who remembers. You are not late. You are timeless. You've been placed in families where you never fit, in systems that felt foreign, in environments where your voice trembled every time you tried to speak truth. But nothing broke you. It trained you. You learned to listen between words, to feel what wasn't being said, to trust the pull of a knowing that defied logic. You stayed whole when everything tried to fracture you. And that's what makes you dangerous to illusions. That's what qualifies you in ways no title ever could. You've touched grief at its rawest. You've stood at the cliff of hope and still found the courage to believe. You've lost what mattered most and still chose to love. That's not fragility. That's divine resilience. And now, after all that shaping, all that silence, all that fire, you are no longer becoming, you are remembering. Your mission is not to fix what's broken. It's to restore what's divine. You were never meant to fit into this world. You were sent to redefine it. And that's exactly what your presence will begin to do when the time comes. But until then, you are being tuned, not just in character, but in frequency. The vibration you carry is being refined to a purity that can't be faked. This is not easy work. That's why few are chosen. Fewer are ready, and fewer still are willing. But you were willing. That's why you're still here. The world needs your mission. It just doesn't know it yet. That's why it tried to silence you. That's why it tried to distract you with applause, appearances, and approval. But none of it ever felt like truth. Because truth doesn't entertain, it awakens. And that is what you are about to do. Your mission cannot unfold where ego is celebrated over essence. That's why certain people couldn't stay. That's why certain doors wouldn't open. Not because you weren't worthy, but because they weren't worthy of what you carry. You were isolated so that imitation would no longer tempt you, so that you could recognize false light and walk away, so that when the unveiling begins, you won't dilute your fire to keep the peace. You won't sell your message for influence. You won't abandon your light just because it unsettles the darkness. You have been prepared to walk alone if you must, not because solitude is your destiny, but because your foundation must be unshakable. You are not becoming popular. You are becoming legendary. And all those nights you screamed at the sky, all those silent prayers, all those moments you thought no one was listening, every one of them was heard. Every tear was honored. You were never being ignored. You were being anointed. Because if you had seen the full vision too soon, you might have tried to skip the process. You might have reached for what looked good instead of what was true. You might have settled for fast instead of forever. But truth takes time, not because it's weak, but because it's sacred. You don't need to force your way into your mission. When it's time, the door won't just open. It will dissolve. The space will make room for you. The path will clear, not because you pushed, but because you aligned out, because this mission is not here to take. It's here to transform. You were never sent to build empires that rot from within. You were sent to plant frequencies that awaken generations. And that's why your power has been hidden. Not to keep it from you, but to keep it whole. But now, the veils are thinning. Now the signal is stabilizing. Now the timing is shifting. And when the final lock breaks open, when the blueprint fully unfolds in your spirit, there will be no doubt, no fear, no hesitation. Just a quiet, cosmic smile, because deep down, you always knew. You'll remember the reason you were kept apart. You'll remember the reason you never quite fit. You'll remember why every storm made you stronger. And in that remembrance, you'll rise not with noise, not with spectacle, but with certainty. The kind that needs no approval. The kind that speaks before you say a word. The kind that rewrites realities. You will not need to prove your power. Your presence will be the proof. You will not chase your mission. Your alignment will draw to you. And those who laughed at your silence, they'll study your stillness. Those who dismissed your pace, they'll marvel at your precision. And those who tried to name you. They'll fall silent when your real name is spoken, because the unveiling will not be an event. It will be a transformation dot, and when it happens, when the mission uncloaks itself at last, you won't be shocked. You'll smile, because deep down, you knew it was always going to be you. And what if the very thing that broke you was sent to bless you? Not in the way the world defines blessing, not as comfort, ease, or applause, but as awakening. As the shaking loose of illusions so deep, they wrap themselves around your name. You weren't breaking down. You were breaking out. You were never meant to heal just to return to the old. You were being restored to something older than pain itself, the core of you that never bowed to fear, never dimmed in shame, never forgot its origin. That's why it hurt so deeply, because the illusion was glued so tightly to your skin that when it peeled off, it took parts of you with it, parts that were never truly you. That pain you thought would drown you? It was the final echo of a story ending. And the silence that followed? That was the breath of God waiting for your yes. You thought your voice disappeared. But the truth is, it was never meant to shout. It was meant to resonate. And resonance only emerges after distortion is cleared dot. So you've been clearing the echoes of other people's expectations, clearing the remnants of a name that was never yours, clearing the outdated codes that taught you to shrink to survive. And in that quiet clearing, something ancient is humming again dot. It doesn't speak in words, that it speaks in recognition dot, in chills down your spine. When truth is spoken dot, in the weightless gravity of finally feeling seen dot, in the holy defiance of no longer betraying yourself just to belong. This is the real mission's prelude, not a performance, but a purification, not a proving ground, but a remembering field. You've spent years tuning your frequency, not to be liked, but to be clear, because clarity confuses the false and calls the true dot. And now you are no longer trying to become. You are remembering the one who agreed to come dot. Yes, agreed. You didn't stumble into this lifetime. You volunteered for it, not to chase platforms, but to embody presence, not to imitate might, but to be it, not to gather followers, but to awaken codes in others just by being. And that's why your isolation had purpose, because you needed to hear the frequency, undisturbed dot, before the crowd dot, before the commentary dot, before the counterfeit dot. You weren't exiled. You were extracted, pulled out of environments too noisy to hear your name in its original pitch, because your real name, your mission name, is not what they called you. It's what the stars recognized when you first agreed to descend. You didn't come to be defined. You came to define. That's why the mirror never matched what you felt inside. That's why the world's metrics of success never quite landed. That's why nothing made sense until you stopped trying to make sense and started trusting the vibration instead. Because what's coming isn't logical dot, it's inevitable. And no, you won't need to rehearse for it. Your preparation wasn't in scripts, that it was in survival dot, in enduring what should have broken you dot, in keeping your inner altar lit when everything external went dark dot, in honoring your knowing even when it cost you comfort, community, even certainty dot. And now, because of that, you are no longer fragile. You are feral with purpose dot, no longer tamed by timelines dot, no longer seduced by shortcuts dot, no longer distracted by the noise that once tricked you into thinking you had to earn what was already written into your blood. You were always the chosen one, not because you were better, but because you said yes to the fire before you understood its heat. Because you said yes to truth, even when it stripped you bare. Because you said yes to love, even when it left scars. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be piercing dot, to walk into rooms and shift the frequency just by breathing dot, to speak words that were never rehearsed, yet somehow unlock memories in others they didn't know they had. You're here to interrupt timelines that no longer serve Earth dot to become the glitch that reveals the blueprint dot to walk with such stillness that even chaos pauses to listen. And no one has to recognize this. They're not meant to, because this part of the mission isn't visible yet dot. It's vibrating. It's growing roots. It's calling your real name from beneath the rubble of roles you no longer need. You are not in hiding. You are in holy incubation. And soon, the ones who dismissed your silence will wonder how you rose so quietly, so powerfully, so undeniably. But they won't understand that this was never sudden dot. It was slow. It was sacred. It was surgical. And now you are carrying a light not everyone can see, but everyone feels. That's why the air changes when you enter. That's why children trust. You. Animals gravitate. The broken open up. The fake pull back dot, because frequency doesn't lie. And yours has become unmistakable, not through strategy, but through surrender dot, not through display, but through devotion dot. And what's next is not an assignment dot, it's a becoming, a way of breathing, moving, choosing so aligned with your divine. Memory. The very earth bends around your path without resistance. You are no longer chasing alignment. You are alignment dot, so don't shrink when the theon shift comes. Don't explain it. Don't justify it. Don't edit it dot, embark dot, not because you know where the path leads, but because you've become the path itself. You were never built to be understood by the structures of this world. And now, standing here on the edge of something both ancient and brand new, you don't need confirmation. You need remembrance. There is no grand spectacle, no audience rising to their feet. There is only this, a sacred stillness, one that hums with intensity just beneath the surface of your skin. The kind of stillness that doesn't beg for attention. It demands alignment. This is not the beginning. It is the emergence. You are stepping into a frequency that no longer asks for permission. One that no longer explains itself to those not coded to comprehend it. Because the truth is, chosen one, you've outgrown the waiting. What once felt like delay was actually divine data being downloaded into your being. And now, it's complete. Your name has always held the code. Your pain, your path, your silence, they've all been shaping the vessel. Not so you could carry the mission, but so you could finally be at dot. And here you are dot, no more wondering when it starts. No more asking where it leads. You've crossed the threshold. The veil has thinned to the point of transparency. The world you once tried to explain yourself to is no longer your audience. Your presence is now your message. Your alignment, your movement, your breath, all of it is the transmission. You don't need to announce this to anyone. Those who are meant to recognize it will feel it in your frequency, because true recognition doesn't come from sight. It comes from resonance. And the final test you face now is not one of endurance. It's one of surrender. Will you trust what you feel more than what you see? Will you walk forward when no one claps? When no one validates? When the world still tries to measure your becoming by metrics you were never meant to answer to? Chosen one, this final moment is not about proving anything. It's about anchoring what has already awakened. This is the part they won't understand. The sacred transition from doing to being, from seeking to embodying. The unraveling of every disguise you wore just to survive. The quiet undoing of every false name whispered over your truth. No more shape-shifting. No more spiritual hiding. No more waiting for signs loud enough to shake the doubt. You are the sign. You are the signal. And now, you are also the sender. You've spent lifetimes preparing for this convergence. Lifetimes coded in silence, in dreams, in losses that were really openings. And now, what once felt buried under the noise has begun to sing. Your soul remembers the sound, the frequency of truth rising from your bones, not as strategy, but as certainty. Not because you memorized the steps, but because your very being is the blueprint dot. This is not about being understood. This is about becoming undeniable dot. You were not meant to convince the world. You were sent to rewrite its rhythm. And those who once dismissed your stillness, who tried to define you by your silence, will now feel the gravity of your becoming, without needing explanation. Because when a soul finally aligns with its original code, the entire atmosphere rearranges around it. You don't need to force. You only need to remember dot, and if your voice trembles as you speak your yes, let it tremble. That tremble is truth moving through you. That shake in your bones is the memory of lifetimes rising to the surface. That flutter in your chest, it's not fear. It's recognition dot. So speak your yes, not because you're ready in the way the world defines readiness, but because your spirit has waited long enough. Say yes, even if you don't know what it fully means, because your soul does. And that's enough. Declare it. Whisper it. Write it in the comments. Let your yes be the trumpet. Let your yes be the shift, because this is no longer preparation. This is initiation. You are not stepping into something new. You are returning to what has always been yours. So walk forward, not with hesitation, but with holy fire, not with noise, but with knowing. And if anyone asks what's happening to you, you won't have to explain it. You'll just smile, because now you remember. You were never becoming the mission. You were always the one chosen to awaken it. Welcome to the becoming. Welcome to the unveiling. Welcome home.